Welcome back to another session of our podcast. Today we will discuss about a topic that maybe concerns you but you have no idea. If you are constantly feeling exhausted, have sleeping problems, chronic fatigue, anxiety, infertility, depression, and despite trying everything else, you still feel like the end of the world, maybe you have got a variation genetic causing this. So let's dive into it with our future dietitian Marcela Amador.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here talking about genetics. First let's give the name of this misbehaved gene variation. See, we have billions of them in our bodies and all of them helps us develop functions. Some genes, however, are sleeping or are turned off. And that's what we call in genetics methylation. See, and this is crucial not only for the normal functioning and the growth cells as well, but even for preventing diseases like cancer. So many studies have shown that methylation plays a key role in this as well. See, there's a problem when we have and we're not able to methylize correctly, symptoms will start to annoy us. That's exactly that happens with the 5-methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase gene, or MTHFR. We're gonna call it like that. I think it's less tongue twister.
Wow, that's very interesting. So, what is the main function of the gene?
Basically, this gene tells our body to produce an enzyme of the same name. And enzymes are like magic wands that create or convert one thing into another one more valuable. So this enzyme will turn our folate into 5-MTHF, which is the active form of folate that our bodies were going to use. And we need this for many things, like gene expressions, which is the turning on and off of the genes, for creating neurotransmitters, which are the responsible for our moods most of the time, and other things. For example, we need serotonin in order to be in our happy place. We need melatonin in order to be in our sleepy place. So when we have problems, we are also going to be disturbed in our happy and sleepy place at the same times. And even for women who are trying to get pregnant, when they don't have the right amount of folate, they're gonna have a higher risk of developing their children, what we call the tube neural defects. And also they're gonna have an increasement on their blood pressure when they are in their pregnancy, what we call as well, clinically talking, preeclampsia.
And what about folic acid? Is it the same?
Well, chemistry speaking, the only notable difference is like the modification or the addition of a methylene group. But the thing is that folic acid is not found in nature. Therefore, it has been something created by the drugstore, in order to provide this nutrient. In our bodies, the thing is that they do not use folic acid. We need folate, which is the active form. So it would be better for you to just consume that form, the folate one, in order to even save some energy to your body and have the functioning that you want.
So let's say I have this gene. Does that mean that I will suffer from lots of symptoms?
No, not at all. I think I mentioned genetic variations at the beginning, but if I didn't, well, these are the ones responsible for that. As we know, everything surrounds us has a structure, right? That's how life works. And DNA is not the exception. See, we have 4 nucleotide bases, A, T, G, and C. And they're basically dating each other. So A is with T and G is dating C. Unfortunately, like what happens in real life, there's cheating going on as well as in genetics. So sometimes bases are going to switch, and that's what we call variations or single nucleotide polymorphisms, which are SNPs. Okay, and when we have SNPs, especially on this gene, we will not be able to absorb the folate that we need, as well as the vitamin B12, and we will present all the symptoms that you already mentioned at the beginning. And there are 2 common variations, which are the 677T and A1298. These are SNPs. And in this case, it will depend which is the allele in risk. We receive 2 of them, one of our father and one of our mother. Those 2 comes from our genes as well. And the union of these creates genotypes. The risk will increase if we have 2 alleles that are badly compromised. Class time! I'm gonna show you a bit closer what we were just talking about in this last question. Remember, we received two alleles, one from our mom and one from our dad. But what really happened and what are your risks of developing something depending on the risking allele that you just got inherited? Well, let me show you. Come closer, here. Two alleles form and create what we know as the genotype. This is the one from the 677T SNP variation of the MTHFR gene. So let's see. Letter T, or the allele T, is the one that's been compromised. Red light. Let's say that. Red light. Yikes. But what's going to happen? Okay, genotypes normally show out or give us three different results. So we're going to do the one that's CC, then the mixed one, CT, and then the TT. What happens if you have a CC? Well, this is your safe place. Let's say it like that. You have no risk, and we call it a green light or the wild and basal type. So you don't have anything to worry about. But what happens if the allele that's been compromised is already in one combination? Well, we're gonna divide this in 50-50. But this 50 means that you have that percentage of risk. But still, do not worry. Remember, we're gonna talk just in a couple of seconds what you can do. But now we have the last result. We have a TT. This means 100% of risk. In the next question, and in the last one more specifically, you're going to learn what nutritional data, facts, and recommendations you can follow in order to diminish this risk if you have this allele and genotype. We'll see you now. Back to the video.
Well, so you just mentioned an important fact that people should be aware of, so they don't think that everything is lost already. But now, how do you get tested for this?
Well, first of all, it's not something cheap, and it's not even available for countries like us, Ecuador. Unfortunately, no, you have to take your DNA sample to the US or to a different continent like Europe. And your insurance most of the time will not even cover it. So you have to keep that in mind. So yeah, it's a bit expensive, but the procedure is very simple. What you're gonna do is first get a DNA test sample. It could be your saliva or it could be a blood test. And what they will do is that they're gonna put it in DNA sequencers. One of the most common brand is called Illumina Nova technology. And what they're gonna do is that they're gonna put your sample, they're gonna mix it with some substance in order for the machine to be able to read it properly. And after that, what she's gonna do is that she's gonna take that DNA strand, she's gonna replicate it, and she's gonna separate the bases. At the end, what you're gonna have is a read by the machine with different colors for each nucleotide base, and you will have your DNA already decoded.
So let's say I get tested. I have unfortunately 2 bad copies of this SNP. I am in a red light state and I have manifested these symptoms. And also I'm trying to get pregnant and I still cannot get it. So what can I do?
Well, the first thing to do is please don't freak out. I know that's something very hard to do, easy to say, but it is what it is. And we need to keep in mind this. Genetics do not establish diseases. What they do is that they let us know the amount of risk and probabilities that we will have throughout our lives. Meaning that even if you have a bad copy of or variation, we can still do things to improve or retard the symptoms. That's what we call in genetics epigenetics. Okay, this is a new term that involves our nutrition and lifestyles in order to keep those genes off, you know, what we talked about, methylized, keep them shut down without being able to harm us. Okay, so that's why it's very important for every single patient, especially if you have a SNP like this, to go and receive nutritional guidance from a professional dietitian as well. For example, lots of meta-analyses done in the US, in Korea, and even in European countries, they have proof that the supplementation of folate, of vitamin B12, magnesium, and zinc have been able to improve so many of the symptoms that we have already discussed. For example, there's a specific one. So there's a specific study that I remember that it was from a Korean country that talked about patients with the SNP 81298 that said that by only performing strength activities and sprinting activities, the one that you're running a lot and very fast, you will be able to diminish the anxiety states and even depressive thoughts as well. So we can do so many things to improve these. And also we want to keep our homocysteine reduced, which is basically the one responsible for elevating our blood pressure, especially on pregnant women, and also putting us in a higher risk of developing cardiovascular diseases. Okay, so this one is very important to keep it controlled. And this one specifically will also kind of like get in the middle of the production of our neurotransmitters. So we're gonna feel a lot more depressed and sad if we have our homocysteine levels up. So we need to keep high concentrations of folate and vitamin B12 to avoid this. And we can find lots of foods rich in folate, like green leafy vegetables like spinach, lettuce, asparagus. So you just have to go and prepare a big bowl of green salad, Also, you can find it on other proportions as well in fruits and beans. In this case, fruits will not only be able to provide the folate levels that you need, but it's going to also be able to give you other vitamins from the complex B, which are also responsible and act as cofactors in the metabolization of folate. So these are very important. If you're having problems with your sleepy time, please try to at least avoid your technology a couple of hours before going to bed. Try to get some sunlight as well to control as well your circadian cycle, and even if you can't get it at first, but be at bed for around 9 hours when you're already at night. Okay, so these are the things that you can do. And unfortunately for the caffeine lovers, you need to limit that one as well. So we can improve our symptoms and also provide our patients a better lifestyle as well.
Well, we have certainly learned so many new things today, and now we are more prepared to deal with any of these symptoms. So one last question: how can our viewers get in touch with you?
Well, you can look up for me in my Instagram account. I think you can find me as Marcela Amador _nutrición. You can text me and then we can chat a bit more.
Thank you, Marcela, for your time, and this is the end of our podcast.
Thank you too for having me.
Hey folks, we haven't finished yet. So here we're going to review some nutritional approaches that you can follow, plus the supplementation that must be added. Don't forget to add in your diet rich folate foods, which are commonly found in green leafy vegetables, like asparagus, broccolis, and all the ones that we just talked. And you can also increase the consumption of lentils, beans, avocados, mangoes, sweet corns, oranges, and all the fruits that you want. Basically, just eat lots of beans, green veggies, and fruits. Do not also forget to start with your folate and vitamin B12 supplementation early, especially if you are planning on having a kid or if you are also vegan, because vegans patients do not have a right consumption of vitamin B12 foods. Start including daily physical activities like sprinting or lifting weights, and sleep at least for 8 hours. Believe me, your body is going to thank you so much for that. And do not look for products enriched with folic acid. Remember, we need the active form, which is folate. So you can look for that supplementation instead. And if your doctor suggested it, after giving you a right diagnosis, he can also add supplementation of zinc, magnesium, B-complex, and other minerals that he thinks you're going to need. And I'm also going to tell you some additional facts that, even though I didn't mention them on the video, I think you're really going to like to know from them. Number 1, when you consume folic acid in high concentrations, most of the times this could lead to a toxic reaction. There was one study done in Brazil that showed that a daily dose of 5 milligrams of folic acid for 90 days reduced the production of our natural killer cells, which are basically our immune system fighters. And I'm going to leave you the reference attached for that study. Also, B-complex vitamins are necessary not only for folate metabolism, but also they support the thyroid gland functioning. Therefore, low levels of folate and vitamin B12 are related to hypothyroidism. And that's why we have patients that share these incidents, but there's more study that needs to be done in order to reach a determined conclusion. Patients that have diabetes or are taking birth control pills, they have to also take vitamin B12. Why? Because their absorption of them it's diminished, and it will affect our folate as well. So supplementation is a must for these patients. When our gene, the MTHFR, is low, our active folate levels are decreased at the same time, and homocysteine, the one that we just talked, the one that's responsible for putting us in a higher risk of developing cardiovascular diseases, the preeclampsia for pregnant women, will strive, and it will cause inflammation and damage to cell membranes and our blood vessels. That is why it's so linked to heart diseases. And it's also involved with spontaneous abortions, placenta abruptions, and others. And when we were talking about the importance of performing physical activities in our daily lives, well, many studies back up these as part of the treatment for patients with depression and anxiety. In fact, they have shown that they're just as effective as antidepressant pills. Moreover, these type of patients have their homocysteine and inflammation levels very high, which is not doing anything positive for them. That's why balancing their methylation with folate and vitamin B12 supplementation is so important. When we have these two in high amounts, homocysteine will diminish, leading to a final equation. Less homocysteine plus less inflammation plus less oxidative stress equals to less depression plus neurotransmitters production. Exactly the happy state we are looking for our patients, and the closer we are to our final goal. And we could keep talking about this gene for so many hours, but for now, this is it and the end of the video. Thank you for watching and listening. I hope you like it.